Number 6, shepherds are close to nature. And what is the nature that we operate on as Muslims? The fitra of Allah. So in order to maintain this position, we have to be always close to the fitra of Allah. We always have to be answering the fitra of Allah. We have to be connected to that ruh that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala breathed into our wombs, our mother's womb. We fathers do not have a womb. Just want to make sure I don't mislead you here in my emotionalness. Living like a nomad brings contemplation. Traveling with nature, nomads use and see the signs of Allah. This duty pulls out of us. It pulls us out of the artificial world, the plasticness of the world. We are made out of what? Clay.
Clay.
So when we are a shepherd, it brings us back to that which we're made out of. And it lowers us to connect to that which we were made out of. Shepherds can't attach themselves to the world very well. If you attach yourself to the plastic world, Assalamu alaikum, sister, you will not feel comfortable. Because it's not of your nature. Your nature is of soil. Concrete leaves huge scars. In the emergency room, one of the biggest problems when people have accidents is getting the asphalt out of a wound. Is that right, Dr. Nasser? He's loving one of his flocks. See, he didn't even hear what I said. He's so in love with his flock. MashaAllah, I like that. She has a right on you, brother. So, Dr. Sadia, that's right? The infection of the asphalt in the wound. So the concreteness of the world is very toxic for us. Even doctors have a hard time cleaning up after the toxicity of the world. The plasticness goes against our grain as humans. We are created out of a malleable clay and are part of the earth. Keeping away from the natural keeps us away from the contemplation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 7. Why was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam a shepherd to the sheep? The weak, dim-witted creature who can't direct itself without assistance falls prey to predators. The animal that leaves the flock will be eaten by the wolf. And how many times as a therapist do people come in and say, my children want to run away from home? Because they can't see, just like the sheep. And they think that if they can live on their own in a tent and work at Taco Bell,
Lord knows. Can you Chick-fil-A?
that life will be wonderful. And they'll be free. They actually think because their amygdala is not developed, that they will be free. But we all know that you can't make it on working at McDonald's or working at Taco Bell. So what do people do? They have to sell drugs or something to make a living because they can't make it in those places. So the animal that leaves the flock will be eaten by the wolf, the wolves of the world. So as I like to say, it doesn't pay to be a solo artist. Satan attacks the stray sheep first. And then finally, we are affected, not affected, but affected by our environment. We are changed by our environment. The best environment you can have is to be close to your father and your mother if they love God. By our clay-like nature, we human beings are always being affected by our environment or surroundings. What happens to clay when it rains? It gets soft.
No.
Our impressionable minds constantly pick up data, or data, according to which country you're from. And we are inundated with data today, with our tablets, our internet, our Facebooks, our Twitter, What else am I leaving out?
Instagram.
All of
Snapchat.
those things which many of you know I really, really struggle with. Sheep require the most mercy. You can't be harsh. They will become afraid and will not listen. But a camel, you can yell at a camel, and they still don't listen. Because they're known to be very arrogant creatures. So may Allah help us, and we'll see how much of this presentation we can continue to go through. Alhamdulillah. In Surah 17, verse 23 and 24, the Lord has decreed that you worship none but Him, and that you be kind to parents. Whether one or more attain old age in thy life, say not to them a word of contempt, nor repel them, but address them in terms of honor, and out of kindness lower to them the wing of humility. And say, my Lord, bestow on them thy mercy, even as they cherished me in childhood. And this is the lesson, that we are shepherds, inshallah, as we adopt these 8 principles of leadership that I pointed out to you today. Our children will pray for us, and they will never even say, oh, whatever, talk to the hand, because that's the modern day version of, because in Arabic was like, in Islam we don't do that to our parents. Because what does this verse say? That the honor to parents is right next to Allah. Right next to Allah. Uf is classical Arabic. Was the dirt under one's fingernails. So whenever you say to your parents, whatever, talk to the hand, it's like saying, dirt under my fingernails. That's what it's like saying. Like a bird protects the babies with their wings, Allah uses reverse psychology here by commanding the child to do this. Commanding the child to pray for its parents. I don't understand why my parents are saying, no, you can't go here and you can't go there and you can't hang out with this person. But I'm going to pray for them because Allah said do that. I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to pray. If Allah had not created this love in parents, society would not have flourished. Think of this society, think of mankind without the love, the unconditional love of many parents. It's beyond what we can understand until we're parents. The free rent that our mom gives us for 9 months, losing her figure, losing her youth, losing her sleep, throwing up for 9 months, but this is about fathers. And dad sacrificing. Allah has decreed, not made it an option, to give this back to them. It's a command, it's a hukum of Allah that we should pray for our parents. The pleasure of Allah is found in pleasing the parents. The anger of Allah is found in displeasing the parents. When your amygdala is not developed, if you can only just know and accept, I am submitted to Allah, and I believe that what Allah has said is truth. And therefore I don't dare want my mom and dad to be angry with me, because if they're angry with me, Allah is angry with me. And God knows we don't want Allah to be angry with us. Once a man came from Yemen to Medina, 1,000 miles, and wanted to dedicate himself to our beloved Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he told the Prophet that he had left them crying, he told him to go back and make them laugh. Imagine walking in those days, or going by camel 1,000 miles to serve your Prophet, maybe to serve a teacher. And he said, listen, go back and make your parents laugh, and then we might have something to talk about. Once Ibn Abbas was making tawaf around the Qibla. You've heard me talk about Ibn Abbas many, many times. And he saw a man with an elderly lady on his back. The man said to Ibn Abbas, I have carried my mother on my back so she could complete Hajj. Do you think I have repaid her for all she has done? He said, what you have done is good, but you have not fulfilled a fraction of what your mother did for you. She did it out of love. You are doing it out of a burden. It would be a burden on every one of us if we had to ever try to return to our parents what they did for us. It's impossible. I read a Time magazine article about 4 years ago that said that we invest, by the time a child gets out of high school, $1 million. $1 million to get a child to high school. We know we don't make that, but that's the investment that we make in a child. That was a Time article about 4 years ago. You guys, what time is it? Because I can't see. Pardon me?
19 after.
What time?
20 after.
20 after, okay. So, walada in Arabic means to bear, to give birth, to beget. The masculine progenitor, begetter, father. Reference to parents have been made at least 15 times in the Holy Quran. The idea of worshiping Allah is connected to the idea of honoring one's parents. There's a correlation, a very strong correlation there. In Surah 31 and verse 14, give thanks to me and to your parents, and to me is the final destination. So we can never ever thank our parents enough for what they did for us. Imagine. Now let me tell you something, folks. When we go to Hajj and we circumambulate that 1,400 square foot building in the midst of 3 million people, and imagine having your mother on your back and being told you did it as a burden. She did for you what she did out of love. I want to say that as a father, I cannot think of any blessing in my life greater than the blessing of serving my wife. I thought that I had been given the greatest gift in the world when Allah said that men are the protectors and maintainers of the women, because Allah has given the one more strength than the other. And when Allah gave me a woman to take care of, I thought it was the greatest honor I could ever be given. And then when He gave me children, it was a whole other world. And I didn't do the best job. I'm not going to beat myself up, because that's against everything I believe in. But as parents, we do the best we can with what we have. And we blow it right and left. But Allah said, even though we blow it right and left, you're supposed to pray for us, and you're supposed to honor us next to Allah. Don't let them hear anything offensive from you, not even words of frustration. So we don't storm off from our parents and stamp our feet and have little temper tantrums and stuff like that. A beautiful ahadith. And we have enjoined on man to be good to his parents, and travail upon travail did his mother bear him, and in 2 years was his weaning. Show gratitude to me and to thy parents. To me is thy final goal. So I encourage young people today, always show gratitude to your parents. This is a command of Allah. Not because Imam Sykes said it, because Allah said it. Always, every single day of your life, make it a Mother's Day and a Father's Day. Because we know, imagine for a moment, young people, Kaylin and Aries, imagine for a moment that you didn't have Siti, your grandmother, looking after you. Yesterday, mashallah, I saw them at the YMCA. Kathy, as long as I've known her, when she couldn't breathe, when she couldn't hardly walk, she was doing something with these boys. And that's her happiest moments in her life. Being grateful to God and parents brings heavenly rewards. Look at this. God's pleasure is in the pleasure of the Father, and God's displeasure is in the displeasure of the Father. Once a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was at a funeral, and he saw a man crying about the death of his father. The companion went to console him, and the man said, I am not crying because my father died. He's in a better place. I'm crying because the biggest door to Jenna for me has been shut. That's the importance of a father. And to the fathers that are here today, I hope and pray that you take that in your heart. And you look at the status. Often I talk about the status that Allah has given women, but look at what He gave to us as fathers.
Can you go back?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay. And this is also uploaded to our webpage, so if you ever want to rewatch any of the classes, if you talk to me soon, she'll hook you up. And all of these classes, you can watch them again. So, Hadith, take care. Each of you is a shepherd. And this is why I began my lecture today with all those contemplations I had about being a shepherd. Each of you is a shepherd, and each of you shall be asked concerning his flock. A leader is a shepherd of his people, and he shall be asked concerning his flock. And a man is a shepherd of the people in his house, and he shall be asked concerning his flock. And a woman is a shepherd of the house of her husband, and over their children, and she shall be asked concerning them. The word in Arabic for responsible is mas'ul. The word also means that about which one will be asked. So we as fathers carry a tremendous burden. We see it as a blessing, as a na'am. But we know that we will be asked about how we fulfilled our responsibilities as a father, as a shepherd, as the imam of our house. Did we lead you in prayer 5 times a day? Did we make sure that we lived our life around the prayers, or did we live our prayers around our life? And for the young men in here that aren't fathers yet, my prayer and my hope is that this class will be an inspiration to you. That it will be something that will stimulate the fitra within you, that will stimulate your heart to operate from these ahadith and from these verses. When you are blessed by Allah with the amana of a wife, and when you take her home under His injunctions, that you will prepare to be the very best husband and the very best father that the world has ever seen. So parenthood is a gift granted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think about the parents. Some people who are married for many, many years. They go to doctors. They go to fertility clinics. They do everything they can to have children, and they don't have children. And they would give anything in the world to have children, but they aren't blessed. But there are many of us today that were blessed with children and grandchildren. And this is our charge. This is our call. Prophet Ibrahim thanked God when his old age, according to scholars, somewhere between 86 and 100 years of age, Allah granted him Ishmael and Isaac. And you know, I think most of us today think, God, please don't do that to me. Let me do this now and let me get it over with. Because at 86, ain't nobody got time for that. Zechariah asked God for a child and rejoiced when given one. Fatherhood begins at the time of conception. We all know that when we pay the Sadaqah al-Fitr, the Eid al-Fitr Sadaqah, if there is a child in the womb, we pray for that child. So that responsibility begins then. And I remember that as soon as we found out that we were expecting both, then we began to recite Quran to our babies in the womb. We began to play the Quran. We began to say the prayers so that they could hear it close to the womb. So we began to play that role that Allah has so beautifully called us to. The Prophet ﷺ played with his children. He hugged and kissed them. And what breaks my heart is that many times in my office, I have young girls to say I was never allowed to sit on my daddy's lap. Our culture doesn't allow that, they'll say to me. And I'll say, but your religion does. And to this day, even with a stroke, I believe that my girls know they can still come and sit on my lap.
Oh, I've got pictures of you after the stroke with me and your last family lesson.
And I remember one time, you know, to see her, she doesn't mind, I know. She's 26 now. And she still sits on my lap. And I think that's one of the greatest honors. To have a child at that age, 22, 26, 25, that still wants to sit in daddy's lap. 23, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to make you a baby, so it's all right. So the prophet did. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam played with his children. He hugged them. He kissed them. He played games with them. They climbed on his back while he was praying, and he was patient. What's so sad to me is that in the masajids, I see sometimes a child climbing on the back, and I see the father scolding the child, and then they don't understand why the child doesn't love to pray. The prophet just remained in sujood while the child was on his back in one of the famous ahadith. Parenthood is a gift granted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I covered this. Sorry about that. The prophet was a model, an example for his children. Ibrahim alayhi salam, working with his son Ishmael, joined together to build the Kaaba in Mecca. When the prophet's father died before his birth, his grandfather provided that role. And when the grandfather died, his uncle played the role. The extended family was very alive, even before prophethood. In Islam, where there is no father, society steps in and plays that role. About a year ago, I tried to start a fathers group. And it is my humble prayer that one day that fathers group will reunite. I know that people work, people have a lot of things to do. But I believe that based on this presentation, we as fathers need support. We need to have a place to talk about the difficulty of this role, and a place to share, and a place where other brothers can love each other for the sake of Allah and say, I'm with you, brother. I understand your struggle. I understand that pain. I understand that loneliness in the wilderness. And I understand how bad it hurts when a wolf attacks one of your children. In Islam, prisons are filled with men who had no father. A very high percentage of the incarcerated are people that did not have a father in their life. Just before I retired, I had a grandfather, a father, and his son in the same prison. 3 generations.
Wow, that's crazy.
Children are the extension of father and bearer of his characteristics. They're the joy of the father's life. They're a continuation of his existence after his death, a part of the father's heart and a piece of his body. Paternity is established through the father. The father puts in the order, whether it will be a male or a female. We've determined that through science now. In the 66th chapter of the Holy Quran, in the 6th verse, O you have believed, those who have attained to Iman, protect yourselves and your family from a fire whose fuel is people and stones. Our calling as shepherds are to protect. Fathers are the family role model. Fathers have the blessing of being ultimately responsible for educating our children, providing clothing, food, shelter, and tranquility to them in the wombs that bore them. It's a lonely at the top syndrome sometimes. And that's why we as fathers need to be there for each other. Quranic relationship between fathers and their children. The first human being Allah created was Adam, alayhi salam. And he had a set of male and female twins, and we all came from Adam and Hawa. Ibrahim and his son, the holiest of Islamic holidays, are celebrated because of their obedience to God. Aaron and his sons continued the high priest. Luqman, a wise man rather than a prophet. And when Luqman said to his son when he was advising him, O my son, join not in worship others than Allah. Verily joining others in worship with Allah is a great sin. And we have enjoined, O man, to be dutiful and good to his parents, His mother bore him in weakness and hardship upon weakness and hardship. And his weaning is in 2 years. Give thanks to me and to your parents, and to me is the final destination. But if they strive with you to make you join in worship with me other than that which you have no knowledge, then obey them not, but behave with them in the world kindly, and follow the path of him who turns to me in repentance and obedience. Then to me will be your return, and I shall tell you what you used to do. So worship Allah alone, Luqman advises his son. Obey parents unless they command you to do something that is wrong. Oh, my son, if it be anything equal to the weight of a grain of mustard seed, and though it be in a rock where it can't be seen, or in the heavens, or on the earth, Allah will bring it forth. Verily Allah is subtle, well aware. O my son, perform the salah, enjoin the good, and forbid the evil, and bear with patience whatever befalls you. Verily these are some of the important commandments. These are the things that we need to be saying to our children. Yes, we know that the world is full of wolves. We know the hyenas are out there laughing at you, and the peer pressure is huge. And we need to say to them, make sure you pray. Make sure you enjoin what is right. Make sure you forbid what is wrong. And be patient. Be patient with the wolves out there that you go to school with, and the hyenas, and the gangsters. Verily, these are some of the important commandments. And turn not your face away from men with pride, nor walk with insolence. Look at this amazing advice. Don't be arrogant. Don't think you're better than anybody else. Verily, Allah likes not any arrogant boaster. And be moderate in your walking, and lower your voice. Verily, the harshest of all voices is the braying of the asses. And that, in other words, is donkeys. If a wrong action or sin be equal to the size of a grain of mustard seed, Allah will bring it forth from the day of resurrection. Even the dust inside a solid rock is not hidden from Allah. So none of your good deeds, fathers, are hidden from Allah. Sometimes your wife, in her busyness, may fail to say thank you. I appreciate the fact that you support me and that you allow me to stay home and raise my children. It's not in the amygdala for children to come and say, thank you, Mom, for cooking a meal, maybe. Thank you, Dad, for going out and working 12 hours. Luqman told his son, perform the salah properly at appointed times. Enjoin the good and forbid the evil to the best of your ability. Bear with patience whatever befalls you. And turn not your face away from men with pride. Don't look down on others. Be cheerful toward them. Do not boast or be arrogant, proud, and stubborn. And yet next week, by the way, inshallah, after I talk about Ramadan and I get back to the tafsir, I'm doing a whole lecture on stubbornness. Yes, Allah has inspired me. I'm going to be doing a whole lecture. Don't miss that. You might say, no, I don't need that. That's because you're stubborn. Allah does not like those who show off and admire themselves, feeling they are better than others. Walk moderately. Lower your voice. Do not exaggerate in your speaking. Now, this is the advice of fathers. This is the advice that we need as fathers to carry out with us today. That should be our mantra to our children. See you not that Allah has subjected for you whatsoever is in the heavens and whatsoever is on the earth, and has completed and perfected His ni'am, His grace, His favor upon you, apparent and hidden, the seen and the unseen. Yet of mankind is he who disputes about Allah without knowledge or guidance, or a book giving life. The father is the pedestal of leadership and responsibility. And there are women in this room that are filling the role of mother and father.
Yeah.
And may Allah help you. May Allah give you courage. May Allah give you strength and endurance. So look again, gentlemen. You're the imam of the home, the shepherd of the home, the central figure who does everything by mutual consultation. And I wanted to look again at verse 434. Men are the protectors and maintainers of women. The verse begins with the statement that men are the kawamun over women. The root of the key word kawamun, plural of kawam, is kama, which means to stand, or to make something stand, or to establish something. It is often used in the Holy Quran in the sense of establishing religion or prayer. We say we are standing in qiyam. This is a very powerful responsibility, that we make our children be able to stand as independents, that we make our wife be able to stand in dignity as a Muslimah, inshallah. A related word, qaim, which means one who stands or makes something stand. Qawam is an intensive form of qaim and has a sense of continuity in the action involved. So it means one who is constantly standing over something, as for example a guard or caregiver, or one who is continuously making something stand, that is maintaining it. In the Quranic passage of qawam and related words, there is almost always present an idea of propriety. For example, aqama of salat is not only praying, but also praying properly, with khushu', with presence of heart, praying in the right way. Thus, in Surah 4, verse 134, and Surah 5, verse 8, the only other passages in the Quran where the word is used, the believers are told, "O you who believe, be qawaman with fairness." So that's our calling, gentlemen, to be qawaman with fairness to our wives and our children. The Holy Quran says that believers conduct their affairs by mutual consultation, not by dictatorship, not by I'm the boss of you, but mutual consultation, called shura. Men are to provide physical protection, economic security, such as food, water, clothing, and shelter, as well as emotional, psychological, and spiritual nurturing. In Surah 30 and verse 21, and among his signs, among his miracles is this, that he created for you mates from among yourselves, that you may dwell in tranquility with them, and he has put love and mercy between your hearts. Verily, and that are a sign for those who reflect. Every one of you is a shepherd and is responsible for his flock. MashaAllah. There's no room in Islam for oppression. There's no room in Islam for treating any of Allah's creation as a second-class citizen. There's no room in Islam for a man to believe that he is superior to a woman. There's no room in Islam for a man to believe that he is the ruler over a woman. But he's the shepherd. He's that loving shepherd that comes and scoops his wife up when she's hurting. Says, how can I be there for you? I see that you're hurting, and it's my responsibility to take care of you, and it's an honor from Allah. And I'm going to answer to that on the day of resurrection, and I want to take care of you in a way that pleases Allah. And it's the same way with our children. We scoop them up with the loving, tender care and say, Allah has given you to me as a trust. And I'm honored to protect you. I'm honored to keep the wolves away from you. The father is the agent for his wife and children. O you who believe, save yourselves and your children from the punishment of the hellfire. This is the charge to the father. Build a model society. In Surah 4 and verse 34, men are the protectors and maintainers of women because Allah has given them one more strength than the other, and because they support them from their means. The man takes the responsibility to safeguard his flock and act in their best interest. Partners are garments to each other, and we all know that garments protect us from the radiation of the sun. Imagine the sunburn that you would get if you had to go around in the nude everywhere. Imagine the humility that you would face if you had to go around naked.
good.
Imagine even when you go to meet your suitor for the first time, those clothes cover your flaws. Maybe you have a huge mole right here. You don't want anybody to see it, so you wear a turtleneck. In the summer, you wear cotton in Florida because it makes you comfort. You don't wear wool. Does any man want a wool suit for the summer? Does any woman want a wool dress for the summer in Florida? I don't think so. Man is the custodian of the crystal. And I'm reminded of the hadith where the women were on the camels and the camel jocks were going fast so that they could get to the prayer. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Mind the crystal," was referring to the women. The greatest crystal in the universe is the diamond. And that's how we are charged to take care of our wives as fathers. Revere the wombs that bore you. Treat them like you would treat the Hope Diamond. Celebrate a father and son submission to Allah. It's what Eid al-Adha is about. Ibrahim was a father and the intimate friend of Allah. Ibrahim was a model devotedly obedient to Allah. Ibrahim told his father not to take idols. Ibrahim was a crusher of ignorance. Grant me a righteous son. Fathers, today, inshallah, we will walk out with this and we will do everything we can. Young men who are not fathers yet, I pray that this will be planted in your heart. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will plant it so deeply in your heart that you can't forget this. That it will be like singing in your ear all the time, these verses. Because when we begin to practice this, every single human in the world will want to be a Muslim. Because if we all had had fathers like this, we would all want to be like this. Ishmael grew under the light of his father's love. Ishmael was the reward of the